talk about this idea that QE is good for economic growth and good for employment. There's a lot of people at the Fed and in the mainstream media, pundits, who are proponents of the idea that quantitative easing is necessary to keep the economy on track and keep employment growing. However, I have a chart of total employment in the U.S. that suggests otherwise, and I'm going to show you that. This is a chart of total employment in the United States as collected in the Bureau of Labor Statistics Household Survey. That differs from the Establishment Survey, which is the measure of non-farm payrolls, but they move in the same direction at the same time. It's just counted differently. The top of the chart shows the total employment level going back to 2007. That's the light green line that you see here. The dark green line connects this month, the most recent month, October, with October 2012, 2011, 2010, and so on, so that you can get an idea of how the trend is going. And I also show January for comparative purposes, and you can see they're pretty much trending in the same direction. But between October of 2012 and 2013, suddenly employment growth ground to a halt. Now, that's partly due to the fact that the government shutdown occurred in the early part of October. So the growth rate dropped a little bit here. The actual total employment dropped here, contrary to what the non-farm payrolls seasonally adjusted number says. Even if we hadn't had the government shutdown, we still would have seen a slowing. Maybe the line would have been up here somewhere. So this growth rate would have slowed dramatically. Down at the bottom of the chart, you see the annual percentage growth rate on this scale here. That's the blue line. And you can see the recession in 2009 and the beginning of the recovery. And then this year, from 2012 to this year, you can see a radical slowing in the growth rate of total employment. Let's compare that with the Fed's system open market account, which is the size of the Fed's assets. It's a measure of quantitative easing. They began QE1 in March of 2009. They carried it out through March of 2010. And you could argue that there was a lag response in getting the employment situation turned around. Then the Fed paused in 2010 and employment continued to grow. But look what happened when the Fed resumed quantitative easing with QE2 in late 2010 through middle of 2011. The employment growth stalled, went from plus 1% almost back to zero. At that point in June 2011, the Fed decided they were going to pause QE again. They went through a long period of pause from June 2011 till they announced QE3 in September of 2012. While they were paused QE, economic growth picked up again. You can see that the growth rate in total employment went from 0 to over 2%. In September, the Fed announced QE3, and then in November it began the settlements of the mortgage-backed securities purchases. Then in January of 2013, it announced QE4 that was going to buy $45 billion a month in treasuries. As QE3 and QE4 got underway, employment growth was running at an annual rate of 2%. But as soon as QE started, the growth rate began to drop. And throughout this period, we saw a plateau and then an additional drop beginning in August and September. So that there is absolutely no correlation between quantitative easing and employment growth. In fact, they're going in the opposite direction. Throughout the period of QE3 and QE4, employment growth has been slowing, and it's come now down to zero. So those Fed heads and mainstream media pundits and Wall Street pundits who are big proponents of QE as a driver of economic growth clearly are not supported by the actual data. So there you have it. Those are the facts. Visit me at wallstreetexaminer.com and get the facts. And while you're there, check out the Wall Street Examiner Professional Edition. You can try it risk-free for 30 days. See you next time.